So I want to talk just a little bit about A Course in Miracles. It was dictated, if you will, to a lady named Helen Schucman over a period of 7 years. The first one was published in 1975. So this is the first one that I got. And what you'll notice is one book is labeled text, and then there's workbook for students, and then there's the manual for teachers. Okay, so now most often you're going to see it come out in one book. This one actually has in the back what's called supplements, which is some other information that's relevant. Okay, one section is called the Song of Prayer, which is very beautiful, and the process of psychotherapy, which is very interesting if you're interested in psychotherapy as a healing process. The woman, Helen Schucman, who wrote this down, was a psychotherapist. That does make the language maybe a little more difficult in certain places. And when I say she wrote it down, she was dictated to by the person that we call Jesus. Okay? And some other, we might have called him Yeshua, but Jesus in the West for Christianity is probably the best known name. Okay, so this particular book I've spent a lot of time with. When you get it, no matter which edition you get, I'll talk just a little bit about the editions. This one has had some editing. We didn't know that for many years. This one is called Original Edition. That's the one I use now, and it is not edited. So when you get a book, remember that it's 3 books. There's a text, a workbook, and a manual for teachers. Most people, when they get a book, they want to open to page 1. Okay, they check out all the table of contents. That's very wonderful. There's a lot of stuff in there. Yes. Then there's a foreword about this edition. And then there's something called an introduction, which I would like to read to you. I'll put my glasses on. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you may elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. After you take in this introduction and let it marinate, you've got options. Remember, it's 3 books. Okay? So you can turn to the next page, and in this particular edition, probably that's what I would recommend, is go ahead and read the first chapter, okay, which talks about Introduction to Miracles. In another option, though, would be to go to the back of the book, because there are some people who like to know the ending before they start. So the manual for teachers, if you would imagine, is a little bit like Cliff Notes. I'm going to give you another section to read that's really good Cliff Notes. Okay, so there's where the manual for teachers start, and you read the introduction to that, and then you read the section called Who Are God's Teachers? If you hear yourself as a teacher of God, then that's how I knew when I read the teacher's manual. It's like, I don't understand exactly what it's saying yet, but I know this is for me. Okay? Who are their pupils? What are the levels of teaching? What are the characteristics of God's teachers? All things that I still want to work on, okay? Trust, honesty, tolerance, gentleness, joy, defenselessness, generosity, patience, faithfulness, and open-mindedness. And then, how is healing accomplished? If you are a healer of any kind, a physician, a psychotherapist, a massage therapist, any kind, I suggest that you read How is Healing Accomplished? Is healing certain? Should healing be repeated? Okay? Because the one who needs healing is the healer. Okay? Always stay with letting everyone be individually in charge of their own healing and seeing them as perfect, whole, and complete. In the middle part is a workbook for students. So there are 360 lessons. The last lesson you finish out. There's lesson number 1, okay? So we have 365 days, and this book takes that into account, 360 lessons, okay? You do the last lesson several times, depending on whether it's leap year or not, okay? So whether you decide to start on January 1 or today, June the 10th, doesn't matter. Just start wherever you choose to. But they are meant to do 1 lesson a day. And there's a community of people that have been doing A Course in Miracles, and maybe they stick with the lesson of the day. So assuming that you started on January 1, there would be a lesson of the day. So the lesson of today is, I am as God created me. And that 1 lesson is repeated several times in the Course. And the first line of that lesson says, this single thought held firmly in mind would save the world. Do we need a little saving right now, huh? So, I am as God created me. I am as God created me. And you are as God created you. If we could look at all people, all beings, and say, you are as God created you. And some days I don't know what that is, truly. And I have to ask for help to see a person as God created them instead of what I made up in my mind. Okay. So, the next place that I recommend that people go to is lesson number 51 through 60. I'm looking for it. That is the Cliff Notes of A Course in Miracles. And I suggest that people read lessons 51 through 60 as many times as it takes for it to be completely logical. You might not believe it yet, but at least something is resonating, okay? So the Course does have some difficult language in it, meaning that the sentence structure or it's telling you things that are hard to believe. But if you study quantum physics at all, it's exactly telling you what quantum physics tells you, okay? Or maybe I'll say new physics, all right? So lesson 51, which is review of lesson 1, nothing I see means anything. I've given what I see all the meaning it has for me. I do not understand anything I see. These thoughts do not mean anything. I'm never upset for the reason I think. I'm upset because I see what is not there. I see only the past. If we could understand that we see only the past, which is not there, we're just looking at a recording and playing a recording from our mind. So, if you read lessons 51 through 60, the lesson 60 gets you to I'm sustained by the love of God. So the Course is teaching you to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So the blocks to the awareness of love's presence are all my grievances, all my judgments, all of my beliefs about the past, all of my beliefs about my failures, my guilt, my fear. All of that is the block to the awareness of love's presence, which is with us all the time. absolutely with us all the time. We just need to get the other stuff out of the way so that we can experience it.